Well, lots have happened with Seattle Mariners baseball in the past week without playing any kind of baseball. Some were pretty good and some were like, oh, yep, here we go again. But before we get into that, I must express that Trident podcast kicked my butt in fantasy hockey. And I don't even think he checks his team. And I'm the one like checking it like a geek. But how do you feel about that victory, Trident podcast?
I lost my hockey team last year, so I've not followed 1 ounce of hockey. You're not wrong. I'm not checking the team very frequently. I do check the standings, but my boys came up. They played big this week. They knew it was a big matchup, so I was very proud of the team. And hopefully we can keep this momentum going into next week.
Considering that my team name is the U.S. 1980s hockey team, I'm going to have to do some Kurt Russell tactics, like when he made the team stay after the game and made them run suicide or skate suicides until like midnight. I may have to do that on them because they certainly underestimated you. And because of that, you have the 3rd seed and I have the final seed in hockey.
Ready for the playoffs. I came and I took down the mighty 1980 U.S. hockey team. One of the best stories in sports, but I had to, it was time to move on.
So far, I am disgracing that legacy, but congratulations on your victory. And
Thank you.
Maybe we'll meet in the playoffs.
My boys are ready.
Boys will always be ready. Now we must get into the fun stuff. Now, we're going to talk about this just a little bit because at this point, Mojo's talked about it. I talked about it. You talked about it. Marine Layer talked about it very passionately as I follow them sometimes. So I don't think we really have to kick a dead horse that much on it, but Mariners did double their alleged budget by Adam Jude by their non-tenderings. The names included Josh Rojas, Austin Voth, Sam Haggerty, and JT Chargois. Now, they can say that basically none of them were surprising at all because for those 2 bullpen pitchers that the Mariners non-tendered, it's like if Jackson Kowar, Matt Brash, and Gregory Santos are healthy, then there's not really much room for them. Although maybe I would have liked to see if JT Chargois could have stayed, considering that the Mariners actually did trade some kind of stuff to get him on that trade deadline. But I guess it is what it is, and I guess the Mariners, they just felt that they didn't want to pay whatever their tenders were going to be worth. Sam Haggerty was not surprised. Gonna miss him. He was a good hustler, stole bases, played good defense, but we all know that with Dylan Moore pretty much holding that spot of utility pretty firmly, doesn't seem like it was going to be possible for him to stay. And Josh Rojas, unfortunately, as good as his defense was on third base, where he did exceed my expectations, but unfortunately the bat just wasn't there, with the exception of 2024 when he was actually flirting with all-star level and made it sound like, wow, Jerry's a genius for trading away Suarez, and now Rojas is going to be no, didn't happen. Rojas, unfortunately, disappointed with his bat, and now, which is why it probably wasn't worth that $4 million tender, which I did agree with the non-tendering, but unfortunately that also means that leaves another hole in the infield, and at this point, we can just say the entire infield as a whole, with the exception of shortstop of J.P. Crawford. So, Jay, try and take me your thoughts on all those non-tenderings.
Yeah, I wouldn't find any of them that were non-tendered. I'm not going to go to bat necessarily for any one of those guys in terms of like non-tendering them. Hack is obvious, everything you said. And coming off the injury as well, who knows if he's even ready to start next season. They could bring him back on a minor league deal pretty easy if they wanted to. You know, a little surprised maybe at Voth because he was pretty solid for them last season. Did a nice job, kind of, stepped up into a more high leverage role with a lot of the injuries. But you made a point before we even started the video that was really good. Like, they got him on the cheap last year, and it's been something they've been good at, right? Justin Topa, Austin Voth, Paul Sewald, Gabe Spire, for at least for 23. These all guys they kind of picked up off the scrap heap that did a good job, and they could still bring Voth back for cheaper if they want to try it. Rojas, I think, would have been, and now understanding the budget, if Adam Jude's report is true, I have no reason to believe it's. I mean, we don't know exactly what the number is, obviously, but you kind of had to non-tender those guys. There's no way you had to save that money. I think Josh Rojas gives you a decent floor at third base that, like, hey, you're going to get good defense, and the bat is, okay-ish, you know what I mean, enough to that it's a decent floor. But if you're looking for upgrades and need more money, then, you couldn't do it, couldn't bring any of those guys back. So I was fine with all of them. If they had a bigger budget, if we were talking about a team with a Dodgers-like budget, I'd probably bring both of them back, Voth and Rojas, because they give you good depth. But Mariners don't have that. They've got to save money, and those are two guys that are just not going to be worth the money they would have gotten.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we all agreed that Mariners they have been good at least getting the mid-level guys, or sometimes they got lucky and got all-star quality bullpen pitchers like Paul Sewald, like the Mariners had before, and Kendall Graveman. But there are some options I do see before we get into pretty much anything else, is that Paul Sewald is actually a free agent, and Eric Swanson, I think, might be a free agent. I just got to check and see where Eric Swanson is at. They
tendered him a contract.
Oh, they did tender him, did they?
Yeah. Jordan Romano was non-tendered. Yeah.
They said they agreed with terms with Eric Swanson to a 1-year contract. So, yep, Eric Swanson ain't going to happen, but maybe Paul Sewald happens. His contract last year was at $7 million. Maybe the Mariners can find a way to negotiate and get him a little bit cheaper, but I think based on that alleged Adam Jude budget that they have, it doesn't seem possible that they're going to try to even get him for $4 million, because I guess they feel that $4 million could be used elsewhere. But before I even get to the next part, which is probably more of the bulk of this show, I must say that, man, John Stanton, if that's true with this whole $16 million thing, and he's expecting to win a World Series with that kind of budget, I'm just going to say, you just can't take that kind of shortcuts. Like, if you want to win, you got to spend the money. Like, examples I got, my YouTube channel, I have outsourced some of my work to somebody else to help with my editing work, because there's someone that can do it better than me, or I just don't have, it'll be more time efficient so I can focus on other projects of this channel. So the point I'm saying is, I've been willing to go red on this channel, just like basically everyone else does, because there are times where you just can't take the shortcuts and go cheap. If you want the quality, you got to spend a little bit of money. And knowing the $76 million in profit that I did see out of the operating income on Forbes, $76 million makes you wonder, like, where does all that money go? Like, obviously, it's not much of that's not going to go that much to the players. Are they spending it on other things? I don't know. Is he pocketing it? I don't know. But if he wants to do that, like pocket the whole 76, he's entitled to do that. It's his business. But if he wants to win, that's the other thing. You've got to actually spend the money. And it's not like we're asking for like Juan Soto, or we're not asking for like Blake Snell at a max contract of Scott Boras or whatever it is, or whatever Scott Boras clients. We're just asking like the little ones, like maybe like where you can spend in the $10 million for someone that you can get. We're not asking for like 10-year kind of contracts. We're asking for like those little mid-level ones where it will complement the other players and provide the lineup and the offense protection. No, we're not asking for like superstars, but someone that can support the team. Just like the 90s, the Mariners didn't have to go big free agents when they had Griffey, A-Rod, Edgar, Randy Johnson. They just needed that little bit of mid-level where they were like slightly below their level, or even like average, or of course, or maybe above average, and that could have helped. But Mariners didn't do that, and it seems that unfortunately with John Stanton, history seems to repeat itself.
Yeah, and listen, do they have to spend? No, but if you're not going to spend, you have to be the best at player development in all of baseball. You've got to be a team that just sets itself apart from everybody else in terms of how you get guys through the minor leagues into the system. They've done a pretty good job. The starting pitching staff outside of Castillo is pretty much all homegrown. They deserve credit for that. They've got some good positional players that they've developed, and the minor league system is in really, really good shape. But to your point, like, it's just to get this team over the top. Like I've said countless times, I would never use free agency to build my team, meaning like the Colorado Rockies signing Chris Bryant, then doing else around that makes zero sense. But the Mariners are not the Rockies. The Mariners are a team that I do think can win a World Series with the core they have, but they've got to supplement it with better players, the players that can complement the Julios and the Cows, and Julio's got to be more consistent too. Maybe I should say complement the pitch. That would be a better way to put it. And hopefully guys like Randy Arozarena can help with that and whatnot. But, yeah, they're close. Like, I think everybody, even people that are down this team, don't think this team is far away. That's why it's so frustrating. If we all thought this was a 100-loss team, then signing a Juan Soto or whatever wouldn't do anything. It would make you better, but it's not going to put you over the top to just sign a handful of free agents. But when you're close, to me, that's when you dive into the free agent market. Okay,
exactly.
We're right here. The 2013 Seahawks getting Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill to help a pass rush that struggled a little bit in 2012. Stuff like that to put you over the top.
Trading for Percy Harvin, and although he was only useful for the Saints game and the Super Bowl, it was still worth trading for him. So
I would do that trade again.
I'd still do that trade 100 times. Yeah, we can only agree with that. And hopefully John Stanton figures it out. I don't know. I don't even know if that 16 million thing is even true, because you usually don't want to trust the media. No offense, Adam Jude, but we do appreciate that. At least you're giving us an idea. And I think it was more of a ballpark. Like, honestly, I think it could be 16 million. It could be 22. It could be 100. I don't know. Probably more like 16 to 22 is probably the more accurate, but I don't know. We're not the owners. We're not the GMs, unfortunately. But we got to move on, as we did get more breaking news out of the Mariners, and it's actually a good one where the Mariners could actually be fixed internally, and we will explain it after a word from our sponsor, the SeatGeek. SeatGeek is a mobile ticketing app for sporting events, concerts, and other events. They make the buying experience easier by the app ranking each ticket from 0 to 10 to see if you are getting a good deal, and you can see exactly where you are sitting. I regularly use that app, and I have had nothing but a fantastic experience with SeatGeek. Use my promo code RoofTopSports to get $20 off of your first purchase. Link to the code, app, and website will be in the description, so take advantage, and thank you. Yep, and for those that have been using that promo code RoofTopSports, I definitely appreciate it. Hopefully got your $20 saved for going to a game, whether it was a Seahawks game, any of those Mariners games, or even that Taylor Swift concert that you wanted to go. Hey, you get to choose. It's as long as you use that promo code, I'm happy, don't care where you go. But the breaking news, and it was according to Daniel Kramer, where the source confirmed that Edgar Martinez, who ended the 2024 season as the Seattle's hitting coach, which he actually did coach pretty admirably, will return in a new capacity in 2025 that will oversee the entire Mariners hitting program. Sounds like I'm starting to think that's a promotion. And on top of that, Mariners hired Kevin Seitzer as the hitting coach and Bobby Magallanes as the assistant hitting coach. Now, to look up Kevin Seitzer to get an idea of who he was the hitting coach of the Atlanta Braves. So I'm kind of wondering, how do the Mariners swoop that in? I would think that if you're the Mariners and you have a hitting coach, and if you're getting a hitting coach and they want to go to Seattle, I'm like thinking maybe that doesn't happen, but it did happen. So very happy about this move. It seems that if you're getting someone from Atlanta, especially with at least playoff experience, and I'm looking up Kevin's resume, he was actually the hitting coach for Atlanta from 2015 to 2024, and he was part of some of the best teams in baseball in the Atlanta Braves. So with the Mariners being able to pull that off, which I will give kudos to Jerry DiPoto and Justin Hollander, I think all I'm going to say is you can't do worse than what Brant Brown, offensive coordinator of the Mariners. I don't think you could do worse than that. And when you still have Edgar hanging around and they seem to be on the same page and they have the same philosophies, I will say that it's a can't hurt move. That's what I'm going to say. It can't hurt. Now, maybe it does, but who knows? But at least they're on to something where they want to fix this team internally. So your thoughts, Mr. Trident?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Atlanta's been one of the best offenses in baseball. I mean, last year, I think they were 18th in WRC plus, but they had so many injuries last year that they were battling. But before then, they were the best offense in baseball in 23. I think they were top 10 in 22. I haven't gone all the way back. I mean, Atlanta's just, we talk about an organization has to be great at player development with the Mariners. I mean, the Braves are one of the, I think, staples of that. I mean, I can't remember the last time the Braves were a bad baseball team. I'm sure it's happened. I'm missing a couple. But I mean, from my childhood up until now, the Braves are one of the of baseball. They're kind of the Baltimore Ravens of baseball to me, just a team that is never bad. And I think it's a great hire. I really like what this coaching staff is doing. I'll give a lot of credit to Dan Wilson because I think he's playing a role in that too. You still have Edgar Martinez, who, listen, maybe the great September the offense had was just random. Maybe it had nothing to do with Edgar, who knows? But, I think it's pretty fair to say that when Dan and Edgar showed up, the offense played a lot better. So you still have Edgar bringing in a hitting coach that I really like. And you listen to him speak, you listen to Brant Brown speak last year, and it was just kind of like, okay, like, I guess I get it, but man, it's just so technical and very almost confusing. Whereas you listen to Kevin Zeitzer talk, and it's very just basic. He's a baseball dude. He's just a baseball guy. You know what I mean? And love the hiring. I'm excited for the changes in coaching staff here. It looks like Manny Act is going to bench coach, and Negron will go. So maybe some better sends and holds this year. Manny was always a little iffy on that. Then you got Eric Young Jr., I think, coming over to coach first base, who is, a high energy guy. So I like this coaching staff. I think, to your point too, I think it's going to be the goal is to get more out of these guys, get more consistency from the Julios of the world, and try to get JP Crawford back to that 23 season he had. So I like it. I like the moves.
How about make sure that Randy Arozarena doesn't take that random last second step back when there's a pitch happening, if you remember that, where it's like, what are you doing? And he's taking a strike. That's the worst part.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're taking the pitch, I don't really care what you're doing in the box, but it was very odd. It's just kind of a weird look, right? It's like, oh, I don't even care enough to step in the box right now, so I'm just going to take a step back. But listen, here's the thing. What I want is Randy to crush on offense, give me a nice 115, 120 WRC plus. He does that, helps his team get to the playoffs. He can step in and out of whatever box he wants to at any time. So just be better, guys.
Just be better, yeah. And I actually looked up all the stats for the Atlanta Braves, at least since 2021, when they won the World Series with Freddie Freeman. In 2021, they were 8th in runs scored. In 2022, they were 3rd. And in 23, they were first. They were the best offensive team in baseball in 23. So you would have to hope that getting Kevin, like I said, I know that maybe it'll be a disaster because it's the Mariners, because baseball is torture, just like what Mike Sock said. Remember when we saw that one video where he was trying to make it sound all poetically beautiful, and I was like, no, it's because of X, Y, and Z that we all talk about like we're kicking a dead horse. But at the same time, it's better than it's got to be better than having Brant Brown as your geeky offensive coordinator. Like, you can't. I know it's a jinx to say you can't go worse than that, but I would still say, objectively speaking, it's still an upgrade to get a guy from Atlanta who knows baseball. And when I actually heard him speak, I was like, okay, this sounds like a real baseball guy, especially like similar people that I grew up watching baseball that had that kind of tone and attitude. Now these days we have managers that sound like nerds and touchy-feely kind of guys. It's kind of like, but like Dan Wilson, Edgar Martinez, and Kevin, I think that you can't really go wrong with that coaching depth. So, like, I'm excited to see what he can do with Cal Raleigh, what he can do, like you said, with JP, Randy Arozarena, Julio, and can he take Victor Robles to that next level? I don't know, because I do have some reservations on Victor. Like, maybe he had a nice spark plug of that second half, but the question is, can he handle full-time duties as the outfielder? Now, I do love what he did. I loved his little last-second bunt. I loved his hustle. Loved his defense. But can he take it to the next level? And hopefully, Kevin can make that work. And also, could he take it to the next level with Luke Raley, who played pretty well last year, considering that he was basically a platoon player, but he was still quite useful. What can he do with Ryan Bliss at second base? Can he develop him? And maybe can they get Cole Young going? Who knows? So I think opportunities are there. I think they've already. I like the coaching staff. I know that's a lot to say. I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, well, you should have gotten Terry Francona. You shouldn't have made Dan Wilson the full time. But at the same time, I mean, Dan Wilson, he wasn't terrible. And at least he knows the organization well. And he did, I'm not saying he had that Lou Piniella all in him, but he did have some of his strategies. Like you saw him like taking risk, something that I didn't see from Scott Service. But Dan Wilson did take risk. He told the guys to bunt. His bullpen decision, I think, maybe they were about the same as Scott Service when we like all look back in retrospect, but there were still decisions where I was like, okay, this is something that Scott Service wouldn't have done. So overall, going to 25, although that we have all this distraction of Mariners ownership stinks, is Jerry Dipoto doing us a favor? But at least they did something right for this offseason, at least from the last 24 hours, was getting a hitting coach that actually has real experience, and hopefully Mariners can make this work.
Yeah, 100%. I liked what he's talking about, the strikeouts today, guys getting in their own head a little bit with 2 strikes. And yeah, with like Tito Francona and stuff, he wasn't going to come to Seattle. That just wasn't happening. He's already close to, what I mean? He's probably got only a few years left managing anyways at this point, so I think he lives in Ohio, so it makes sense. He stayed in Cincinnati and stuff like that. So no, I agree. I think it's a good coaching staff. Gotta be, players got to step up too. Some of it's on them. Even last year, as much as I was ready to move on from Scott, and the Brant Brown hiring was clearly a disaster. But the players got to be better too. Some of it's on them. They've got to step up and step up their games as well. Because, coaching can lead you to water, but you got to be the one to take the drink.
Exactly. So we'll have to see where that goes, but we can all agree that if the Mariners still stand pat with the team that they have, we can agree that it just may not work out. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But another breaking news that we shall go over is, according to John Morosi, now let me give you a warning. Not all of John Morosi's reports are exactly accurate. I mean, he said that Mariners were in talks of getting Brandon Nimmo, and he made it sound like, oh, it actually could happen. Nope. Remember when he fumbled on Shohei Ohtani going to Toronto, and it turned out he was actually still in LA at home, and he got something wrong with a plane ride or something. I don't know what it was, but it was so bad that he had to apologize, and he was absolutely embarrassed, and I think he's lucky that he even still has his job. I don't know. I don't know if it would have gone that far, but the Mariners are they are looking to get the KBO star. His name is Kim Hae-sung. I know in the Americans they call it Hae-sung Kim, just like Ha-sung Kim of the Padres, now the free agent, which I also don't think the Mariners are going to get. But to get an idea of Kim Hae-sung, or okay, fine, I'll say Hae-sung Kim because Americans say the first names first. Koreans, we say the last name first all the time. But he's basically possibly another Ha-sung Kim. Maybe he has a little bit more upside. He can steal bases. He's got lightning quick speed. He's got contact on the ball with his bat. He's also got pretty good defensive skills. And he was also a former teammate of Ha-sung Kim Ha-sung. And I think when I looked at his market value, he might be around maybe less than $10 million. And if that's the case, I think the Mariners should do it. And I know there's that whole thing of KBO is probably like slightly a step below AAA or maybe even AA. They certainly are a step below the Japanese league. But at this point, if Adam Jude's saying $16 million, I would take the risk and go for it. And actually, financially, it's a very low risk when you're going for a KBO star. And usually the KBO stars that do go to America, they actually do translate pretty well with baseball. We saw it with Jung-Hoo Lee, or shall I say Lee Jung-hoo. He actually had an okay start with the Giants. He wasn't like fantastic. He wasn't like Ichiro level because he was hyped to be the Korean Ichiro. He did end his season in injury, but he did really show his upside. And I do think that Mariners really should check this guy out because we need someone. They need someone at second base because I don't know about Ryan Bliss. I don't know if he can do it. I just don't think he's there. I don't know. I think I kind of see some like Taylor Trammell vibes out of him, like the quad A players. So I do think I would want to give at least Ryan Bliss some kind of competition where he has to earn it, even for Kim Hae-sung or Hae-sung Kim. Man, when I'm Korean, I'm like flipping these things around. But I do think it is someone that they should give it a chance, especially if he's at least already good on defense and's got speed. And especially if we got Kevin as our hitting coach, then I think it's something that can work, and it's a pretty good undervaluing of a free agent pickup that Mariners should definitely check out. And it's something that they'll have to do sometime around January, because I think that's when the international signings happen.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's January. So yeah, not a player I know a ton about. So I'll just defer to you on this one. But yeah, I'm all for it. Seems like a good depth piece. I think his strikeout numbers are pretty low. If I'm not, I could be.
I'll look it up while you explain things on your thoughts.
Yeah. So that would be nice to have in the lineup for sure. A guy who puts the ball in play a little bit. So yeah, again, not a player I can comment on too much because I don't know. But Mariners need a second baseman. I'm not comfortable handing Ryan Bliss the keys at least full time yet. Maybe he has a great spray or something and we can talk about it, but there's too many holes still with Ryan Bliss that, unless your lineup is just loaded, 1 through 8, then fine. I can stomach Bliss is enough at the bottom, but they need serious upgrades along the infield. So yeah, I'm all for anybody that can be better than what's currently on the roster.
His last stats from last season is 11 home runs, 75 RBIs, 30 stolen bases, had a 62 to 47 strikeout to walk ratio, 326 average, 383, 841 OPS, 458 slugging. Now, do I expect those numbers to copy and paste to Major League Baseball? Of course not. I think what we'll see more of is exactly what Ha-Sung Kim went through, where he had his growing pains. I think that's something I would expect, but I'd rather... let's look at the other guy, Ha-Sung Kim or Kim Ha-Sung. As he was with the San Diego Padres in his rookie year, he was 8 home runs, 34 RBIs, 202, 270 OBP. I think more realistically, we'll be getting that. So basically, unfortunately, another Jorge Polanco, or maybe he has a jump and goes 251, 325. I don't know, but either way, considering how bad our second baseman has been, I would still take the risk and see if you can make it work, because at least Mariners have Kevin Seitzer as the hitting coach. So especially if you have good hands with the coaching, you can make it work. Like, look at Gerald Perry in 2001. He was able to make Brett Boone into an all-star. He helped Ichiro, even though, Ichiro was himself, but he couldn't have hurt Ichiro. He helped maintain Edgar's stardom, John Olerud. Now, yes, these were great players, but also at the same time, Mariners have had talented players, and they still screwed it up because of not so great coachings. And also to confirm that the reports out of John Morosi was actually not directly from John Morosi. It was actually from a Korean insider. I'm trying to remember who it was. Oh, it was Ji-ho Yu, or Yu Ji-ho. He's an English sports writer for Yonhap News in Seoul. So looks like he covers soccer and baseball. I actually tried to see if I could reach out to him to see, hey, what do you know? I have to subscribe to Twitter to even just to send a message to him. So I don't think I'll be getting any kind of talking on him soon. But hey, if I could, that would be grand. But I don't know. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Maybe I'll take that subscribe. Me like, hey, what do you know about Kim Ha-Sung? Do you know anything? I don't know. And maybe he can help me with my Korean soccer content. I don't know. But there's not much to say. We can only wait and see what happens, but it does seem like I do think the Mariners should go for it, because like when you look at the second base market, which I also have that website prepared, I tried to be more prepared this time, but for second base, we're looking at Gleyber Torres, Brandon Drury, Adam Frazier, Whit Merrifield, Nicky Lopez, Kyle Farmer. Like, all these guys are pretty much aged out, and as much as I want the Mariners to spend money, I just don't. Even if the Mariners had an unlimited budget, I would say maybe Gleyber Torres, but he's also very inconsistent. When I was watching him with the Yankees, he wasn't the most consistent guy, and his defense isn't exactly up to speed. He would have probably been like a $15 to $20 million guy. So obviously, I don't think I'd want to burn that 16 little million dollars of that budget on him. So I think Kim Ha-sung is probably the more undervalued guy to look at.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. That market's not great unless there's a trade, for somebody that's available.
Exactly. And let's take a look at next is we were going to look at the holes to address on this team. And oh boy, boy, do the Mariners have quite a bit of holes. And we can go over it together. And let's see what's next. Okay, yeah. Catcher, we can agree Cal Raleigh's the guy. I mean, anyone else? Sebi Savala? Harry Ford?
Savala's in Boston now, I think.
Oh, great. It's too bad that the Mariners didn't get more out of that Suarez trade. Eesh. And then, so that's already locked down. First base, Luke Raley, and you're platooning with maybe Tyler Locklear, but he didn't really. I don't feel comfortable starting him in opening day. Maybe as platooning, sure, but that's about it. Second base hole, unless you have like Ryan Bliss. And this is if you add nobody. Shortstop, JP Crawford. I mean, he's here to stay. He's got a contract. If we can get anything of 2023 out of him, great. Third base, obviously, as a whole, because Good Vibes Only is obviously long gone, and Josh Rojas is gone. And I wouldn't want to start the season with Dylan Moore as the guy. I mean, we love Dylan Moore, Gold Glover on utility, but he's not an everyday guy. We love him as a utility, great. But is he an everyday guy? No, he's not. Left field, Randy Arozarena, assuming the Mariners keep him, because there's also rumors that maybe the Mariners want to get rid of him so they can unload his $11 million contract. But the thing is, who are you going to replace with him with your very little budget? So I would still keep Randy Arozarena. As much as his play style drives me absolutely nuts, it's like, yeah, but he's got the talent. And maybe coaching can fix him. Center field, Julio, like, are we really going to get... No. Julio's here to stay. And then right field, Victor Robles. So really the big holes are, I would say, first base, second base, and third base. No hard feelings on Luke Raley, but that's where we're at. And then DH, obviously there's a hole because no Justin Turner or Carlos Santana at this time. So where do you see on the holes, or unless we're pretty much on the same page on that one?
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I mean, listen, I can live with Raley, Locklear at first base if they go out and do something big upgrade at second base. Maybe Cole Young is closer than, I don't know about opening day, but maybe Cole Young's getting close there. Third base to me is like a clear. There's no current player on the roster that I would feel comfortable. I'm not wild about, the other options at first or second, but maybe you can live with that in a scenario. Third base, yeah, you can't have more playing every day. You're going to need to make a move there. And that's why I wasn't totally against Rojas being back, because he can play second, play third. It just gives you a floor at those positions a little bit. But yeah, I think, and then DH right now, you've got Haniger and Garver on the roster. So they've got a handful of holes. I don't think it's an unreasonable. I think it could be very fixable. I mean, you could go get Santana or Turner at first base. And then Raley can kind of play the outfield a little bit, and an outfield guy can DH on occasion. So you can kind of do that. Garver hit lefties pretty well. So if you do hold on to Mitch Garver, you could DH him against lefties. I'm not completely against that. I actually do think Garver bounces back a bit next season. We'll see, budget wise, what the Mariners want to do. I think third base is the real big one. They're all holes, right? You need upgrades at all. I think third base is going to be the toughest one to do, because I think you're going to have to make a trade there. I know Alec Boehm's come up a lot. It does make sense for the Mariners. And I know there's been some other names floated out there as well. But yeah, I agree. I think those are the clear, obvious holes. Nice thing is no holes on the pitching staff. You feel good up the middle with catcher, short, and center field. Need JP to bounce back a little bit for sure. But if he can do that, you feel pretty good up the middle there. But yeah, definitely, no doubt, this team's got to make some moves this offseason with limited budget. So they've either got to find a way to get like a Mitch Haniger, some of his contract off the books. Like you said, there's been some rumors with Randy Arozarena that they could do that. That would save them some money. They could put back to somebody else. But, as always, they're going to have to probably get a little creative.
They really are, and they're going to have to do similar things on how they were at least able to get Luke Raley, which was a very creative deal on somehow unloading Jose Caballero to turn into Luke Raley. And I still don't hate the Jorge Polanco trade, at least for what they gave up to get him. I still would do that trade again. Now, I probably would have just handled his injury situation just maybe a little bit better, but I didn't hate those moves. Like, I really did. Now, in hindsight, the move I probably wouldn't make again was that Mitch Haniger trade. And I said that, oh yeah, that was a great trade. We got him on the every 3-year mark, and he's going to hit at least 25. Nope, didn't happen. He was very much a shell of his former self. And when I looked up his numbers for Mitch Haniger, it was like he was a slightly better version. He was basically 2010 Ken Griffey Jr. with the home runs and the extra base hits. And if you subtracted all of that, he basically has 2010 Ken Griffey Jr. numbers. So he was basically, I guess what Ken Griffey Jr. 2010 should have been was basically 2024 Mitch Haniger. I can't believe I'm putting Griffey and Haniger in that same sentence. But Alec Boehm, I did look him up. He has club control, so that's why I think maybe the Mariners go for him. Another idea is Jordan Westburg. Now, when we are looking at on how we can address those holes or how the Mariners can address those holes, it's going to cost someone in the starting rotation, in my opinion, and possibly a top 10 prospect in the Mariners to get any of those kind of calibers. But you're right. Anything the Mariners do at third base, they have to do some kind of a trade, because I don't think Alex Bregman necessarily fits that $16 million budget unless you can tell Scott Boras of like, hey, we'll do like the Bobby Bonilla contract later. No, he's not going to do that. He wants all upfront kind of contract. I mean, he's already kind of fumbled on Blake Snell already from last year. So I think Scott Boras wants a really big free agency. So I think it's safe to say that Alex Bregman is not coming to the Mariners, unfortunately. Now, I think if the Mariners had like Bill Bavasi as manager, he could have convinced John Sands, like, because of that big, bald, and tall dude. I mean, he seemed that kind of guy that he was the one guy that can convince Mariners ownership to spend money. And I think it was because he had that big beard, intimidation. And don't forget, his father was Buzzy Bavasi. So I think name had to do with it. Getting a little bit off topic, but we can accept that Alex Bregman isn't happening. So, but I do think the idea of like getting like Jordan Westburg or Alec Boehm of Philadelphia seems like a pretty good idea, but that's if the Mariners can give up the likes of Luis Castillo, which I prefer to give up because I am ready to give up on him, unfortunately. But most likely, they're going to ask for George Kirby, Logan Gilbert.
Not for Boehm. Maybe Westburg.
Westburg, yes, I can see that.
Maybe,
but if you can,
yeah.
But if you can unload Luis Castillo to get Alec Boehm, then why not? But then you have to look at.
I'm not giving.
You wouldn't do it.
No.
You wouldn't do it.
Boehm's not. I mean, I get it. I'm not giving up the starting pitching. It's a huge strength. I hate the idea of, and I'm just not from you. It's fit like your point's correct. I'm tired of like, oh, we're gonna stop trading from strengths to then like, oh, now our offense better. Well, okay, fine. Now you're pitching. I think you could survive a Castillo trade. There are scenarios where I could stomach trading Castillo. I can. Like, he's the most expensive starter. It frees up money. I get it. You could maybe go sign another back end guy, but this rotation is lights out. I think we could debate what the best starting five is in baseball, but I'd rather trade the prospects. I want this team to win. Go add to the offense by trading from the minor league system and then adding to it. I think if you're trading Castillo, again, unless it's for someone that's like, so above and beyond that he truly puts you over the top, I mean, are you really better? Like Castillo for Bohm, you've lost Castillo. What was Bohm worth war-wise? Probably less than Castillo last year. So like, is your team actually better? And I don't think it would cost him for Bohm, but like, I don't necessarily think, yeah, your offense is better, but now your pitching takes a hit. So I get it. I get where people are coming from with trading starting pitching 100%. It's a strength and you're trying to get the offense better, but a run prevented is as good as a run scored. So it does cut into your run prevention there. And then, is Emerson Hancock in the rotation every day? What if Brian Wu gets hurt? What if Bryce Miller takes a little bit of a step back? So I don't know. I don't want to trade starting pitching, but Castillo is the one I could stomach, essentially. I do get it. I wasn't shooting down your point. It was correct. It's just that, like, I hate it. I hate that we have to, like, talk about trading one of these pitchers just to get better on offense. We shouldn't have to do that.
You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with disagreements because the most boring show to have is we're like, yep, I agree. It's like, okay, let's find something to disagree. But you know what? That's what the Mariners do. They divide our fan base because they get us arguing about how this should be done and this should be done when we know deep down they're not going to do anything that we want them to do.
And I think we agree. Like, I'm sure you'd prefer to keep the starting five intact and make the offense better, like preferably, right? Like, I mean, like you mentioned Gilbert and Kirby, like, I'm sure you'd prefer to hang on to them and find a way to get the offense better without having to give them up. I think most fans would. I don't think he wants to trade anybody from the starting staff. It's more, well, it might be the only way to get something, which I understand, but I'm just tired of it. I want to keep the starting staff. They're one of the best in baseball. Don't pull from that to maybe make offense a little bit better. Go trade the prospects. That's what the farm's for. Spend money, John. Like,
spend the money. Don't pin us against each other because Jay Trident's one of my greatest YouTube partners I've ever worked with. Don't do this. Don't do this to us, John Stan. You've already got me. He's done it. And Scott Service. Okay, I'm not going to do too much on Scott Service, but John Stan's really, he breaks up friendships within the Mariners fan base. That's what he does, something he's good at. He's the real problem. Oh, but to your point about Luis Castillo, his WAR was 1.8, and Alec Bohm was a 3. So actually, now to think of it, Philadelphia might be like, well, I want Castillo and I want your future Yordan Alvarez. So I really do think that, in my opinion, I don't know if even trading the prospects are going to be enough. They know our starting pitching. They're going to ask not only for that top 10 prospect because there's no guarantee that Cole Youngs, Emerson, Laz Montez, there's no guarantees they're going to be all-stars. They could end up like Jared Kelenic for all I know. They could end up like, who else was a failed prospect? They could end up like any of those. So they're going to ask for like, well, we want Castillo and, well, we want this. So
that's pretty good though. I don't know if they need pitching. Their staff is pretty good. I think they want to move Bohm. So I don't think it's going to cost, it may be a fringe top 10. I don't think, I saw the rumor today of someone, I think someone just posted of Laz Montez for Bohm. I'm not doing that. I'm not trading him. I like Bohm, but not that much. We're giving up. And I don't have the prospect list in front of me, but maybe a fringe top 10 and then maybe a reliever. Maybe I'll throw in, I don't know. It's hard to think right now, but because they just, like Austin Voth would have been somebody I might have thrown in had he been tendered a contract, something like that, gives them a little boost on the back end and gives them a decent prospect. I don't think they need pitching. I could be wrong, but I think their staff is pretty loaded with Wheeler, Nola, Walker struggled, Ranger Suarez, who's the other tall lefty that they have? I can't think of. Sanchez.
I'm amazed you even have this on the top of your head, but I would think that, but if the Mariners do a deal with Baltimore to get like Jordan Westberg, and I'll credit, what was it? Marine Layer Podcast are the ones that came up with the idea. And you know what? As much as I don't really talk to them very much, they still come up with pretty good ideas to at least talk about. So I got to give them credit on that. they at least did like my Yordan Alvarez videos, so there at least we had some kind of common ground at the time when I met them and Couch GM at the same time. But where was I at? I was going to talk about Westberg. I guess our Westberg, yeah. If they're going to get Jordan Westberg, then for sure they're going to ask for the Luis Castillos, George Kirby, Logan Gilberts. They're going to ask for at least one of those guys and maybe like 2 top 10 prospects. I don't know. I'm not the GM, but that's just based on what we have seen before. So I don't know. But I guess we're going to move on. And it was fun. It was fun that I'm willing to give up on Castillo because I just don't really like him that much. Unfortunately, La Piedra, yeah, cool. But he's shown inconsistencies, and especially for a guy that's covered 64 Mariners games, and I saw quite a bit of Castillo. Some of them were just painful to watch, where the first pitch, that's a home run. That's what I was used to with Luis Castillo. But no, it was okay for you to disagree of saying like, well, I want to keep the starting 5 intact, which, you know what, I respect that too, because if that part ain't broke, don't fix it, and there's always injury concerns, so you had a good point on that one. But Jay Trident and I were about to play a really fun game of how to fix this Mariners team with a $16 million budget that they allegedly say they have, and because Adam Jude said $16 million, we're going to play that $16 million. But we'll get into that after another word from our sponsor, SoFi Bank. SoFi is an online bank and a personal financing company offering financial diverse products. They hold the naming rights to the home of the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers, named SoFi Stadium. They offer amazing checking and savings accounts where you can get up to 4.6% on savings accounts. There are no monthly fees to maintain the accounts, and they have over 55,000 no-fee ATMs around the United States. You even have access to a budgeting program, stock trading, and insurance programs. Join SoFi and get $25 for joining and or $25 for opening a stock trading account. Links are available in the description. And thank you. And lastly, I am not a financial advisor, so either find a professional financial advisor or go with your own gut. I'm going to try to see if this works. Can you see that screen pretty good?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to play. That's the game we're going to play. I'm going to keep track of our $16 million budgets. And there we go. So, of course, this is the $16 million that we're going to be playing with. Maybe I'll make this bold so I can make it a lot better. And then we've got your side of it, and you're going to give the reason why you're doing it. So, for example, let's say we signed this Korean guy because, and then you put in Kim, and then you'll have $10 million left. Now, if you want to, let's say you end up agreeing with me and trade Luis Castillo, we go to traded Luis Castillo. Or if we Bobby Bonilla'd Mitch Haniger, which I don't think they're going to do because he's around $15 million. So there, I think you get the idea. So that's the game we're going to play. So the game is we have to fill in holes for, I'm going to say second base, third base, and DH, because I do think ultimately, unless there's some kind of first baseman hanging around in free agency, I just don't think the Mariners are, I don't think they're going to hot button necessarily the first base side, because I guess they think that Luke Raley could be the guy, Justin Turner, Carlos Santana. So I think they're just going to roll with that. Or do they give Tyler Locklear that full-time start? So I will trade away Luis Castillo, and hopefully the Mariners will get us back Jordan Westberg, and let's say his amount of money he's probably going to be owed. I'm going to say if he went from he was in the less than $1 million, so I'm going to say $3 million to be safe, because that's probably what his value is. Because I think these tenderings probably depend how good they did, so they are going to be worth. It's probably going to be worth of what they're going to get. So that leaves me with $37 million. And you did help me there that there could be a free agent available that the Mariners could be looking at was Sasaki. I think that's who you were referring to. Trying to see how much he would be worth, though, is the question. Let's look up.
He posted and everything, so I have no idea what the contract would be for him.
Now let's see how much the Dodgers spent on that guy. Because the Dodgers got the Japanese guy from last year, and I wonder how much.
Yamamoto.
And he got, Yamamoto got paid a heck of a price.
Yeah.
Like Dodgers really went after him. And let's see what his was worth. $32 million at least when it's all said and done. But he started with $9 million, so they backloaded the contract because Dodgers.
Yeah, that's the thing with it's. Yeah, you never know where the money. But I mean, you're just doing a rough outline here, so I have no idea. Again, with the Korean Japanese players, I have no idea what the contracts are gonna look like.
And I believe his name is Roki Sasaki. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right, you just gotta look up his stats and see if the Mariners would probably go for him, because when I look at the free agency, they're not exactly anything to look at. He was a 10-5 guy with a 2.35. I'm gonna say, or let's see where Yamamoto was too. Man, with this whole Blake Snell, like I had a plan to get Blake Snell, and then Dodgers just had to dodger this whole thing. They basically dodgered my entire video because of this. So he was 7-2. Looking at his Japanese stats.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm seeing some things people are saying like 4 years, 15 million. Like that seems low, but yeah, I just don't know what the
he was so he was like a 17-6. His ERA in 2023 was 1.16. That's why he was worth 30-something million. And he had and
it's tough too, because you've got to like the posting fee with players like that. So it's a tough one. I don't know exactly like where that money they'd have to for the posting fee count towards that budget. That's why like it's so hard to determine, because I don't know exactly how all that works, to be honest. That's above my head. So I don't know.
I'm gonna say 15 million to replace Sasaki, because I don't know if you can go into the 2025 season with Emerson Hancock as your number 5. Like he could be a 5 in any other team easily, but for the Mariners standards, he wasn't exactly someone that you'd rely on every night. He was basically right-handed Marco Gonzalez on like an average year, basically, in some kind of way, numbers-wise. And Logan Gilbert, you can't really... Logan Evans, you can't really depend on him either, because he's also another wild card of like, is he actually going to work out? I don't know. But let's say Sasaki is 15 million. Maybe I'll say 20. So that leaves me with 17 million left. But I got Jordan Westberg. And for second base, of course, let's say $8 million for what's his name? Kim Hae-sung.
Yeah.
So that will take care of my second base right there. And of course, you got to get... Oh man, this is tough. Okay, I'm going to say 16 million for Sasaki. I don't know if he'll go to 20 million. I mean, I don't know. Like, this video could be absolutely nuked by... well, whenever. Of course, okay, and I'll go with, like, Carlos Santana. He's probably going to be 8... You think 5 million? I thought it was going to be 8 million.
Last year he was 5. I can't imagine he'd get a ton more.
No, because he's another year older.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I just don't. But
and then Justin,
who knows, maybe.
And then Justin Turner, I'm also very curious of like how much he would be worth.
6 million, 5, probably about the same as Santana. I think Santana would be a little more expensive. I'd put maybe Santana at 6 or 7, Turner at 5. Just because Santana's a switch hitter, better defender than Turner, a little more pop in the bat. Oh,
let's do 5 million for both of them. For let's say and this is like very conservatively figures, shall I say?
Well, then your 3 left is going to kind of be, you're going to have to sign the roster fodder of spring training. You know what I mean? So there you go.
Let's get Paul Sewald to take some kind of hey, let's bring you back together, man. So with my insane plan, and obviously I don't think the Mariners are going to do this. Oh, and I have another funny idea. Mitch Haniger, either he's part of a package trade or they Bobby Bonilla the contract, if you know what I mean. So they'll just have to defer his money out and pay him like $1 million a year for the next 15 years. That's my other idea. So this is kind of fun, but I'm going to say, I know we could probably do better with first base, but let's say if you did Bobby Bonilla, Mitch Haniger's contract, or somehow got out of it, then that leaves room to get the Christian Walkers of the team. And that's something that the Mariners are going for. And Pete Alonso, that's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to happen. And if it did happen, I think pigs would start flying if the Mariners actually got Pete Alonso. But unfortunately, I just don't see it happening. He was around a $10 million guy. He's 34 years old. So maybe he's going to get, I don't know, like 12, in my opinion. So maybe Christian Walker.
Santana, Turner, and Walker.
Yeah, why not? Let's just do that. Christian, platoon, I don't know, make Justin Turner and what's his name? Justin Turner and Carlos Santana just be platoon guys on the DH spot.
Well, true.
All right. So with that, I have $3 million left, and this is just completely out of guessing and speculation. Most people are maybe saying that Carlos and Justin are going to be $8 million. I don't believe it because they're getting a year older. But that's what I'm going to do. Trade Luis Castillo to get Jordan Westburg, even that's very wishful thinking. Sasaki, maybe 16 million, 20 million, I don't know. Get Kim Hye-sung, Carlos Santana, Justin Turner, get them back as DH, make them platoon for each other. Paul Sewald, bring him back, add the depth back to the bullpen because he's a free agent now. I don't know if he would take that kind of contract, though. Maybe give him $6 million. Now,
is your prediction or what you want to have happen? Because if the Mariners walk away with Jordan Westburg, Sasaki, and Christian Walker, this will be the greatest offseason in Mariner history if they're able, and then get good depth in Santana as well.
This is exactly what I want.
Gotcha. Okay.
This is what I want. Like, this is like, hence why this is like my plan.
Gotcha.
This is not my prediction.
Okay.
Like, based on predictions, we'll be lucky to get Alec Boehm and maybe Kim Hye-sung. I don't think that's going to happen. And maybe you re-up Justin Turner, Christian Walker, not Justin Turner, or you get Carlos Santana, but you're not going to get both of them. And maybe Paul Sewald if he's nice enough. But he's also already criticized the organization too. But that is the kind of offseason I would like. So now, Jay Trident Podcast, it is your turn now. See if you can play this game of filling first base, second base, third base, and DH. And I guess plan for pitchers and bullpen. I don't know.
Can you hear? Oh, am I there? Okay, I saw my thing going out. Yeah, these are always tough for me because it's like we don't know if it's 16 exactly. So, and then, obviously I'm going to try to do something where I get Mitch Haniger off the books. But here's the thing. I don't think you're going to get anybody to take his, whatever it is, 15, 17 mil. So what you're likely going to have to do if you want to get that contract off the books is you're going to have to trade him, attach a prospect to him, and probably eat half of that. So my bet would be if they trade Haniger, they're going to probably save $7-8 million. And then some teams probably just going to release Haniger. It's going to be similar to the Kelenic trade where they just had to attach a guy to get the White and Gonzalez contracts off the books. So I think that's, if they do something, that would be smart. I mean, you want to get Haniger off the books would be my guess. So I'll say Haniger and you save like 8 million. I'll say they -8 for him. I don't have access to the.
So you want to, we're trading Mitch Haniger and you're
Mitch
trading
Haniger,
a prospect.
Yeah. And a prospect, because I don't think you're just going to be able to, no one's going to take Mitch Haniger. You're going to have to attach. I don't think you're going to have to attach like a Las Montez, but I don't know, like a Michael Morales. I don't know. I'm just, throwing names.
I'll look at it. Here's your top 10. You've got Logan Evans, Johnny Farmelo, Ryan Sloan, the switch-handed pitcher. I cannot say his name. Tyler Locklear, Felnine Celestine, Harry Ford, Las Montez, Cole Young, and Colt Emerson.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to trade any of those guys per se. I think it would be more of a, 25th prospect, someone with some future, some upside, not a nobody, but I don't think it would be anybody from that, from that group necessarily. But if you want to get Haniger off the book, because no one's going to take that contract. essentially. So Haniger, and this is just not my area of expertise, but so I don't want to get too into like, oh, they would never be that prospect from people, but I think it would take Haniger and a prospect, and you'd have to eat half the contract. I'd then trade, for Alec Boehm. Probably it's I think a fairly safe. His contract, I think, is $8 million for this year. So essentially Boehm takes over for the Haniger. I don't think it would cost you a starting pitcher. I think it would cost you, again, maybe one of those fringe top 10 guys and another top 50 prospect, and maybe a big league reliever. I don't know who would be sparable. Again, Voth would have been a good one. Chargois, guys like that you could attach, but maybe Santos. I don't know, something like that. But I'll go with Boehm. I'll go with Hae-Sung Kim. Hey, not the one that's going to be posted, not the one from the Padres. Yep, there we go. And I'll say same thing, 7 to 8 million. And then we'll go $6 million for Carlos Santana. One name I'll throw out there for Mariners fans: keep an eye on Luis Robert. Still, down year. I'm not going to put him in there. I don't know his contract. Because if you trade for Robert, then you've got to trade a Rosarena probably and do all that. I just don't have those. Maybe I'll go through and get a little more in depth with it for another video when we reunite later. But I would keep an eye on Robert still as a possibility. Down year, I could see Jerry going for him. So, and then $2 million left. You can put Seawald / bullpen guy, whoever it is, who has some random bullpen. This year's Austin Voth, someone like that'll come in, bullpen guy off the street. I kind of think that's something that's about what they're going to do. You can sub out Boehm for somebody, and Kim, Santana could be Turner, you know what I mean? But I think that's probably your Mariners off season. And then, Santana kind of DHs with Garver, plays some first base. Rayleigh plays a little first base as well. Rayleigh plays a little outfield versus righties for Robles. And, Kim's your second baseman. Boehm's your third. JP at short, Cal's catcher. You got your staff and your bullpen. And so, yeah, we'll go with that.
I think mine is like the best case scenario.
Yeah, yours is a much better team.
Yours is like a little bit more realistic, but here's the thing. If we had that kind of offseason based on what you wanted, that is still like a winning offseason in some capacity. But the most realistic one, I think what the Mariners are going to really do, to be honest, they're probably going to, I guess they'll find a way to trade Mitch Haniger, but Jerry's going to get like guilted into trading one of our top 10s. I think that's what would happen.
It's possible if they want like a Jordan Westberg or something who is just a little more regarded than Alec Boehm, then yeah, it's probably going to cost you a top 10 and someone off the major league roster. I'm not against it. I'm not against trading top level prospects, but it's got to be for more than Alec Boehm for me. I like Boehm. He's solid, good bounce back candidate here. I think can help, but I'm not giving up, Cole Young, Colt Emerson, Laz Montez, any one of those guys for him. I'll move on and bring Rojas back or something. I don't know. I don't want to do that, but he's not enough where I'm giving up. I'm not sending Laz. Can you imagine Laz Montez hitting in Philadelphia in that hitter's park? I mean, he would hit like 60 a year. And especially knowing the Mariners' luck and how it ends up for us, there's no way the dude wouldn't be a superstar. So,
yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, based on yours is probably the little bit more realistic that could be the thing. And then the most realistic is they just get rid of Mitch Haniger, trade a top 10, unfortunately, out of it. They're going to sign some third baseman on the cheap. I have no idea who it is, and I don't want to know who it is. They don't get the Korean guy, but they'll, in a consolation prize, we'll get Carlos Santana. I think Carlos Santana is going to be the marquee free agent for the Mariners this season. That is unfortunately the prediction that I'm expecting. I mean, both of ours, mine is like
Santana, good player, just not,
he's not going to get you over the top.
Listen, if Julio can stay consistent and, if they sign Kim in that projection and he's solid, and the pitching's great, I don't know, maybe Houston takes a step back. I mean, he could, but your point's correct. Like, he's not someone that's necessarily, but with everything going on, the new coaching staff, who knows? So I'm excited. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I think, yours would be much better. I'd be much more excited to have that offseason with Sasaki and Christian Walker coming in, but I will take, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, and that is if the Mariners are somehow able to unload all of Mitch Haniger's. No, I said to Bobby Bonilla the deal. Bobby Bonilla would be what you can do. You just, unfortunately, just have to spread it out for the next course of how many years. Just like, look what, I mean, the Mets are still paying Bobby Bonilla's contract until 2030, I think. They're paying him $1 million a year, and that was based on a $6 million contract. So I think that Mitch Haniger would be so if you double $6 million, he's going to get $2 to $3 million a year in interest of the Bobby Bonilla type contract. But my idea is to give Mitch Haniger the Bobby Bonilla. And why not? He was a huge part of this Mariners organization from 2017 to 22 and opening day of 24.
The only thing I'll say for Haniger is it's just 1 year. So you might be better off if there's no market for it. Just sucks eating that money.
Eat the money.
Year, and then, and just, maybe find a role for him. Maybe, he should bounce back a little bit against left-handed pitching. He was so bad again, which was so weird. You'd think he'd be at least serviceable against him. So, maybe that can happen. I'm not, again, trying to hype up Mitch Haniger for 2025.
2025, yeah.
I'm like, wait, what year is it? But
Project Mitch Haniger 2025.
There you go. Make no, but Mitch Haniger, the Mitches. We got the Mitches there. So I have more faith in Garver bouncing back and being productive, and he can catch. So to me, that gives Garver a little value. Haniger just, unless he starts hitting lefties, there's just not a lot of value that Mitch Haniger gives you.
He doesn't have it anymore. It's just gone. The only value that he has is only value I see is just him being a designated hitter. Unfortunately,
he didn't hit very well. So I get you're right. He can't play defense, so he's got to find a way to bounce back. But I would be willing to attach a prospect to eat some of that contract. Not anybody franchise change. I mean, you never know who's going to be franchise changing prospects, but
some that we trade away, maybe they could end up like Jared Kelenic. We never know. We just don't know. Or it could be Victor Robles, could be Jared Kelenic, or could be Yordan Alvarez.
Yeah,
and then 10 years from now, I'll make a video going how the Mariners got Laz Montez to this team and how they won the World Series and how they burned the Mariners because some manager is going to bring in some pitcher and pitch against Laz Montez, a lefty. Boom. A home run, and it costs the playoffs in the World Series. And I'll be making that video. If that happens, I am going to make that video just for fun.
It's no butterfly effect. Just straight up the Mariners traded him to here. So there you go.
Pretty much. Well, that's the game that we played. I think that was a pretty fun game. It's the first time I ever did something like that. It's kind of hard to do, but I don't know. But we have a very last segment part of the show, the Hall of Famers. We have seen Felix Hernandez is on the ballot. Ichiro's on the ballot. I mean, we can agree that obviously Ichiro is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Like, if he does not get the Hall of Fame, I think Twitter would just explode completely and maybe all would be lost. But I guess I would say the most attention that it deserves, Felix Hernandez. And I have a feeling, unfortunately, he's not going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. I do think he deserves to be Hall of Fame. It's just that he was just not in the right timing with the Mariners. If he was in 22, let's say he played his career out from 2015 to 2030, then maybe he would have had a chance. But because he played with some of the worst teams in Mariners history, I just don't see it happening for the first ballot at least. And I think he may get the Edgar treatment where he gets it on his 10th year. But hopefully Felix gets it, and I really do think he deserves Hall of Fame because he really pitched not only his heart out, he pitched his guts out just to keep the Mariners 20 games below 500 from and prevented it from making like 30 to 40. And that's the value Felix brought in. And the numbers do back it up. Yes, he doesn't have the win and losses, but he has the strikeouts. He's got the WAR. He's got everything else that I think backs up the case for him to be Hall of Fame. But because he never even went to the playoffs, that may be the hurdle for him. Any thoughts on the Felix?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think he'll be first ballot. I think he should be in. Certainly baseball writers have gotten better at not just going off wins and losses and stuff to evaluate pitchers. So I think he's got a shot because of that. But I think there's going to be one, Felix didn't age very gracefully, unfortunately, at the end. I mean, he had some good years as he got older, but he just kind of fell off, whereas a guy like Justin Verlander is still going. I mean, I remember Verlander in 06 pitching against the Mariners, against Felix in a game in Seattle in April. I mean, that just shows you how long, and Felix's last couple of years, he was really bad, unfortunately. So, I think that's going to hurt him too. I think if he had sort of had like a Verlander finish where maybe he's not an ace, but he's at least a middle of the rotation guy. I don't know if Felix never adjusted his game for that or what. I think that's going to hurt him a little bit, but I think he should still be in. Tremendous pitcher, tremendous competitor, and just put him in alone for all the crap he had to deal with in his years here. So I think he should be in, but I agree. I don't think he'll be first ballot, but I think he will get in. I think it'll be kind of an Edgar type situation where I think down the road he will get in. Hopefully, and Ichiro obviously is a unanimous first ballot, not just for the on the field stuff, but everything Ichiro has done for the game globally. One of the most important players in baseball history. So
recently, the Los Angeles Dodgers just signed Blake Snell to a contract, which kind of did ruin a part of my recording of the video. So here are the bloopers of this video. So I traded Luis Castillo. Oh no, great. What am I going to do? What are we going to do? Are we going to get whoever? Are we going to get Emerson Hancock to do it? I don't know. But here's what I got. Blake Snell. Now the unfortunate
sign with the Dodgers.
Wait, is this a joke?
No, he just like 10 minutes ago.
What? During our show? No, he did not.
Yeah.
No. Yep, you're right. That just destroyed my... Okay, you know what? I'm going to have to...
What about Sasaki? Roki Sasaki? Is that how you pronounce it?
You know what? I think we're going to have to start from the top. That's kind of embarrassing. Like, how was I supposed to know about the Blake Snell?
I mean,
okay.
It just happened like 5 minutes ago, so there's no
All right. All right, I'm going to have to take it from the top and I'm going to replay the SoFi to bookmark this.